Okay, guys, so lesson 10.2, we're on page 416. You want to follow along with me. Before we even look at this, quick think back to 10.1. And what does surface area mean? That is the area of the surface. So all the outside sides, what are their areas? And then you add it up. We did that with rectangular and triangular prisms. Prisms having two bases on the top and the bottom, they're about the same, and then sides around. When you have a circular prism, we call it a cylinder, right? There's no sides, we call it a cylinder. And it's the same idea. You're going to find the area of the top and the bottom and add that to the area of the sides, except this time there are no individual like four sides, like if you had a rectangular prism. It kind of is just like one thing that wraps around. So we're going to talk about how to find the area of that we call it the lateral side. But that literally is just referring to this right here. So you know how to find the area of the top and the bottom. Those are just circles, but we're going to talk about how to find the area of that. And then you just add it up again, just like the other surface area. So first thing is our bases. We know that to find the surface area, it's pi r squared for a circle, right? That's the area of a circle. Area of circle equals pi r squared, right? And we have two of them, 1, 2. So whenever we're trying to find the surface area of the bases for a cylinder, we'll just multiply the area by 2, which is how we got this. The pi r squared is from the area of the circles. The 2 is from the fact that there are 2 of them, right? So that would be our area of our bases. Now in the area of the lateral surface, if you were to unroll this, you would imagine that there is just one big rectangle, right? That's how I want you to envision this, because all the problems are not going to unroll it for you. They're going to give you just the cylinder, but imagine that it's unrolled and you unroll it, it's just a rectangle, right? And we know area of rectangle is just base times height, or length times width, whichever way you want to do it. So our base would be this right here, and our height would be this right here. So to figure out our base, usually they're not going to label that for us, but if you look at the cylinder, you realize that the base is the same distance as the outside part of the circle, which we call the circumference, right? So you find the circumference of that circle, that's going to give you the base of the lateral surface. Remember, circumference is 2 pi r. So we take 2 pi r, which equals our base, and then we multiply that by our height. That's how we get this. 2 pi r times the height is just the area of the lateral surface. Then we're going to add the two together. So let's do some examples of these right now. Okay, so now I'm going to just keep the definition and the formula up there so we can look at it for right now. But over here, this is the problem we're doing. We are trying to figure out the surface area of this cylinder. Now, let's start by figuring out the area of the bases, and we know the area of the circle is pi r squared, right? So let's go on by start figuring out, we know pi, our radius is 4, so that'll be 4 squared. And since there's 2 of them, we're going to multiply that by 2. So this would be the basis. And remember, just like up here, 2 times pi times the radius squared. Perfect. Now we add that to the lateral surface. Now the lateral surface, remember, you imagine it being unrolled, and this time they actually gave it to you, which was nice. So we just find out the base and the height of that rectangle. We know the height is 3, but we need to figure out that base. And remember, that is just the circumference of the circle. So circumference is 2 pi r. So 2 times pi times the radius, which is 4, times the height, which is 3. Now let's multiply those up. And we would end up with 176 as our answer. But remember, since this is area, millimeters squared. All right? So just follow the formula right now and plug everything in, but understand where the numbers came from. The 2 over here comes from the fact that there are 2 bases times the area. The 2 over here is because you're figuring out circumference and then multiplying it by the height. So now I'm going to give you some to do and then come back and check your answers. Now I've just erased the formula, so I really hope you've been writing these down. And I would definitely in your notebook be making an area for these formulas from all the chapters, because the final is going to be coming up here in not too long. And it'll be helpful to get these things in your head and not confuse them with one another. But go ahead and try these, pause, and then come back and check your answers, and I'll go over them with you. All right, so these are the answers that you should have gotten. Let's go through and try some of these. So first thing for number 1, we're going to start by figuring out what is the area of our bases. We have 2 of them, so we know it's going to be 2 times, now how do you find the area of a circle? Pi times the radius squared. The radius is 6 squared, right? We're going to add that to the area of the lateral surface. Base times height. Our base, remember, is the circumference of the circle. So that's 2 times pi times r. And now we multiply that by, well, our r is 6. And we multiply that by our height, which is 9. Now let's add all that up together. 2 times pi times 6 squared, which is 36, would give us about 226. I'm just rounding to the nearest whole number here. And then 2 times pi times our radius, which is 6, times 9, would give us about 339. And you add those up, you would end up with about 565. And since this is area, our unit is going to be squared. All right, and you would have done the other one the same way. Now we're going to move on to one other type of example, and you'll be done with your notes for today. So now let's say I only want to find the surface area of the lateral surface. So make sure when you're solving these problems on your homework, your test, whatever, that you are reading the problem carefully and what it's asking you for. Because this problem is only asking for the lateral surface area, right? That is this. That does not include the bases, all right? So we know what the base is. What we did was multiply the area times 2, so we can just ignore that. We just want to figure out what's that middle part, what's the lateral surface. So to do that, remember it's a rectangle if you stretch it out, so it's just base times height. Our base is the circumference of the circle. Our height is 5 for this one. So let's just do that, and we're done. So circumference of the circle, that's 2 pi r times, and then we multiply that by our height. So plug the numbers in. We have 2 times pi times our radius, which is our diameter is 8, so our radius is 4, times our height, which is 5, right? You would end up with about 40 times pi, which would equal out to be about 126 square feet. That's one way you can do it. You can also do it like this. So there you go. That is how you would find the lateral surface. So I'm going to give you a chance to find the lateral surface. We'll double check again, and then you're done. All right, so go ahead and do these problems. Try them. Remember, you're only finding the lateral surface. Pause and then come back and check your answers, and I'll go over one with you. All right, so for these two, you actually would have come out with the same number, different unit though. One's in centimeters squared, one's in yards squared. So again, remember, we're only looking for the lateral surface. So we're only looking for this middle part here. So base times height would be circumference times the height. So 2 pi r times the height. Plug our numbers in. 2 times 3.14 times our radius of 3 times our height of 4. That would have given you about 75.4. And you notice on some of these, I'm rounding to like the nearest 10, some I'm rounding to the nearest whole number. Make sure to pay attention to what the question's asking you because again, lose points for that. All right, so that is lesson 10.2. The hardest part is just making sure you don't mix up the formulas, which is why it's very important that you're taking notes, labeling them so you can get familiar with using each formula. But that's it. Good luck.